One more thing. Luka Doncic and Slovenia's attempt to make the Olympics fails, but Luka Doncic now gets some much-needed rest. How much does he need it? I'll tell you on today's Locked On Mavs. One more thing.
I'm here because I have to be.
Dallas is going to get a seat at the table.
That's it. It's me versus the machine.
Don't let his whiteness take away from his quickness.
You can rest later. You're young.
I'm here to color beer.
Wait. One more thing.
Yeah. Welcome. You're still locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and your best friend covering the Mavs for the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for listening to the show. Subscribe. About like 12,000 YouTube subscribers away from 50K. That's my goal, I think, for the next calendar year. Hit 50K YouTube subscribers. Help me out with that if you haven't subscribed. Today, we'll talk about Luka Doncic. He needs some rest. He's finally going to get it, and we'll talk about why and all that. We'll get into Slovenia versus Greece and all of that. But, man, I think I'll just start here. Luka Doncic's year in basketball ends. And I know that there's a lot of people that were saying, oh, why is Luka even playing in these international competitions? It's all over. We don't have to talk about that. I parsed that out the last episode where I talked about why Luka plays in international play, why it's important to him, and why he does this. But Luka has just had an insane year of basketball. He played in 8 FIBA World Cup games back in August, September of 2023. Then he came to Mavs training camp. So the FIBA World Cup games were August 26th to September 9th. They played in Japan and the Philippines. Then he went to NBA preseason in Dallas and started training camp September 27th. So only like 2 weeks off between there. That started in Dallas. Then they flew to Abu Dhabi, played 2 games there, went to Real Madrid, went to Spain, played Real Madrid. October 10th, they came back. Luka missed the last preseason game because they didn't need him to play against the Pistons. Mavs regular season started October 25th, went through April 14th. Luka played 70 games in between there. He also went to All-Star Weekend, so he didn't get a break then. His daughter was born. His firstborn child, Gabriella, was born December 2023 at some time. And so he became a father in that time in the regular season. Then they make the playoffs. The playoffs start April 21st, so just a week after the regular season. That goes all the way to June 17th because they make the finals. He plays in 22 playoff games and plays 41 minutes a game in those. And then he goes and plays these 3 qualifier games for the Olympics. Plus, they played some exhibition matches and friendlies for the Olympics and for the FIBA World Cup games. Luka has played a ton of basketball over the last year. That's Luka's last calendar year, basically. It's been about 283 days since training camp, and you can go back to, the beginning of the FIBA World Cup, August 26th. That's even farther back. Insane. Let's see, August 26th, 2023 to now, 315 days Luka has been playing basketball basically nonstop. There's either been, a couple, like a week break or so, or there's been something to prepare for or prep for coming up. FIBA World Cup, NBA preseason, NBA regular season, NBA playoffs, Olympic qualifiers. He has just been going. And Luka's injuries throughout all this have been vast. I tweeted it out. I texted it out to the subtexters. Luka's injuries, he had the chest contusion, right knee sprain, right ankle sprain, left ankle soreness, left Achilles soreness, left calf strain, left hamstring soreness, left quad injury, right elbow sprain, the broken nose he got against the Suns when Grayson Allen smacked him in the face with the ball, and he had a back injury. I think there's probably more than that, but those are the ones that I could find and that I remember from Luka this past season, why he was listed on the injury report or why he missed some games. And he didn't even miss many games. One of the things that I think that was disingenuous about the talk of Luka over the last year or so is then he's just been dealing with so many injuries and pains and soreness and things like that. This rest is much needed for Luka Doncic. Congratulations to him for just an incredible year of basketball. Should have been the MVP, made it to the NBA Finals, had the World Cup, didn't qualify for the Olympics. That would have just been an insane ask for him to do in this game against Greece. I'll talk about it here in a second, but absolutely insane to hear Luka go through all this stuff. All these injuries, to play all these games and all that. It's just been an absolutely grinding, grueling year for Luka to go through all this, and he deserves much needed rest. The Mavericks will probably start training camp. Last year it started September 27th. I think it'll be a little bit later because the Mavericks don't have an international trip. So end of September. So Luka basically gets July, August, and September to rest now. Awesome. Good for him. Take the time, Luka. come back in whatever shape you decide to come in and get ready for the next season. I think this is going to be a really important time for Luka Doncic to rest and get everything that he needs in this offseason. And mental rest, too. I mean, we talk about the physical rest all the time, but the mental rest Luka probably needs after going through all this. I mean, it's just such a huge thing. And hopefully he comes back into next season feeling invigorated. They just made the finals. They just got Klay Thompson. He seemed to be happy about that. Mavs are in a really good place. He has Kyrie. Not a ton of changes as far as like losing guys. Last couple of years, they lose Brunson. They lose in the playoffs. They just have lost guys and lost things, lost momentum, and coming into each season has not been like the most exciting thing for Luka. But now, after this whole year, get some rest, come back, Kyrie, Klay, Mavs just made the finals, all that. I think it's going to be an exciting start for Luka next season. I think he's going to be energized and ready to come back to the season next year because it's not going to be a draining thing for him. Just projecting, but it seems like the Mavs are in a really good place. Luka Doncic is going to get some rest and hopefully get back to 100% healthy and be back to the Luka that we're used to seeing, the MVP Luka. I mean, we haven't seen it almost all playoffs. It felt like we didn't see the MVP level Luka because of the injuries that he was dealing with. I mean, all the things that I just mentioned, knees, ankles, like calves, hamstrings, quads, like it's all lower body stuff that just didn't allow him to get the kind of like push and lift that he needed on shots and stuff. Even in the game that they won against New Zealand the other day, he was missing a bunch of shots because they were all coming up short. And I know that people are like, oh, when he loses, he's dealing with injuries. When he wins, he's fine. No, like in his wins, he's been dealing with these injuries too. His shots have been short. His free throws haven't been great. He made a bunch of free throws against New Zealand, but in this game, 2 of 6 from the free throw line, bunch of short shots. He had to jack up a bunch of threes. So congrats to Luka. And yeah, good stuff from him this past year. We'll send him off. We'll send Luka off with
Luka Doncic, Luka Doncic, Luka Doncic, Luka Doncic.
There you go. Congrats on the last year that you've had, Luka Doncic. Let's talk about this Slovenia versus versus Greece. So Slovenia comes into this. They need to win in order to move on. It's a semifinal. They beat New Zealand, and so that was the reason why they're even in this situation at all to make the Olympics. And so they needed to win this game. It's a must-win game. They come into this game. Giannis is playing for Greece. Giannis had missed a game against Egypt for rest. He had been dealing with a calf injury from the NBA season. He'd also been dealing with a knee thing that he got in another Olympic qualifier game for Greece. And so we weren't really sure what we were going to get from Giannis, but he starts, and right out the gate, we hear that Josh Nebo is expected to guard Luka or to guard Giannis. Josh Nebo is the naturalized center that was brought over. He replaced Mike Tobey in the lineup. Josh Nebo is like a 6'9", springy, switchable type center that Slovenia has. And you're like, all right, let's throw the one guy, basically the only guy that could potentially even try to cover Giannis. And they put Josh Nebo on him. And the first play of the game, Giannis posts him up and one, or spin and one. Giannis makes the free throw, and Slovenia's down 3 points to start the game. Very first possession of the game, and you're like, oh no. Oh no. This is not going to be good. So, Greece starts on a 13-0 run. Slovenia doesn't score until 6:45 into the game. They play 10-minute quarters. So they didn't score for the first 3 minutes or so. And again, Greece starts with a 13-0 run. They end the first quarter with a 10-0 run when Luka gets checked out of the game. They hit a heave from 30 plus feet. And it felt like the Peyton Pritchard shots from the Mavs in the finals again. I mean, it was just like nothing was going right for them. Slovenia ended the first quarter down 14-32. Their offense has been the thing these qualifier games. Slovenia's offense just did not have enough. When Luka is not 100%, it really felt like the Mavs in the finals, all these qualifier games. When Luka is not 100%, when he does not have the burst, the lift, the shots, the everything, when he cannot give you everything, they didn't have anything. That was tough. It was real tough to watch them offensively. Their process just didn't seem to be good. They didn't have enough guys that could get separation. They didn't have enough guys that could hit shots. So Luka finishes the game, 21 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, 7 of 14 from the field. because he went 5 of 9 from 3. In the second half, he just had to start bombing threes because Greece started to double team him and send delayed help and all kinds of stuff. They basically sent 2 bodies to him from the when did I write down that they start? Like in the 6-minute mark of the first quarter. Soon as Slovenia scored, Luka got a drive and a score at 6:45, and immediately after that, they're like, oh, Luka just scored? Okay, time for us to send a double. And they sent a double basically immediately after that. And they sent it the whole rest of the game. So Luka, if he didn't want to have 2 bodies on him, he had to just jack up a 3, a deep 3. And so he was throwing up step backs, and he went 5 of 9. This was his best 3-point shooting game he's had. And it was Slovenia's best 3-point shooting game, I think, that I've seen, at least in these qualifier games. But just wasn't good enough. Wasn't good enough for them to move on. Only scored 68 points. It's just not going to get it done. Josh Nebo, though, we talked about him a little earlier. 17 points, 7 boards. They found something here with him. I mean, he was the only offensive thing that they could get going because outside of Giannis, Greece didn't really have any other bigs. Kostas Antetokounmpo was out and wasn't going to play. They had like Papa Giannis and guys like that, but they're not really centers. Like they're kind of stretch 4s that Greece has. And so Slovenia was able to get some stuff going with Josh Nebo in the pick and roll. Again, he scores 17 points, 8 of 9 from the field. But other than that, they just really didn't have anything going. The other Slovenians besides Luka and Josh Nebo struggled in a big way. Just could not get anything going. They were 8 of 31 from the field. Vlatko Cancar is the other guy that has played in the NBA that was on Denver last year that, remember, was out with the ACL injury because of the international play last year. He had a terrible injury. He's the only other NBA player, and he's coming back from an ACL injury. And it's really hard to come back from those, but he went was 0 for 5 in this game too. He just struggled. Couldn't get anything from him. Klemen Preplovic was the other guy that I talked about yesterday. It's like, all right, he's really got to get going for them to get any offensive going. He's like their off the bench microwave scorer guard. He went 2 of 8 from the field, only 1 assist in this game. Just really couldn't get anything going either. Couldn't get separation. Couldn't get shots to go, especially with Giannis helping. And speaking of Giannis, he was dealing with the injury. We talked about he had to rest another game. He only had to play 21 minutes. Not even. He plays 20 minutes, 52 seconds. Brutal one offensively for this Slovenia team. And they just really couldn't get anything going. Greece had all the runs in them. Greece built up a 20-point lead to start the second quarter. And I tweeted, like, I think this game is done. Like, Slovenia doesn't have enough offense to keep up with them. Slovenia won the second quarter 19-15, but it just wasn't enough. Greece started the fourth quarter, the 16-3 run. Luka checks out with like 4 minutes to go or something like that, and Slovenia's bid to go to the Olympics ends. Luka Doncic's season and his basketball year ends, which I think is a positive thing for him. It's sad to see Slovenia go out like this, but Luka gets the rest. I think that's what's important for him and for Mavericks fans. I understand that that's what people have wanted to see, but that's where we are. Slovenia and Slovenia's bid ends. Luka Doncic gets some rest, and we'll continue here on Locked On Mavs. Thanks for hanging out with me, talking about Slovenia, talking about Luka Doncic. We'll continue with more all throughout the offseason. Guys, thanks for listening to Locked On Mavs. One more thing.
Peace out.
Boom.